You're listening to Empowered to Lead, the Therapist Practice. I'm Lisa Catello, therapist, business coach, and your go-to for all things leadership and sustainable practice growth. This is your space for real talk, smart strategies, and grounded support to help you lead with confidence, work with intention, and build a business that actually works for you. Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome back to the Empowered to Lead podcast. I'm so excited to have Uriah Guilford on with us today. I have followed along with him and a lot of the technology, but also sense of humor and group practice owner that he is, and based in California. But one of the things with this podcast that is important is finding resources and support, identifying who you are as a group practice owner. So Uriah has that, and he also has the productive therapist, which helps us as group practice owners to make our business run smoothly. And so Uriah, maybe just introduce yourself a little bit, your journey to where you're at right now, and a little bit about your experience as a group practice owner.
That sounds great. Thanks so much for having me, Lisa. It's a pleasure to be on your show. Yeah, so this has been a fun journey for me, from finishing my schooling to getting licensed to, honestly, I didn't even have a dream of having a private practice. That came actually pretty late.
Okay.
But I realized that I had 2 young kids and I needed to do what I could to support my family. And so I figured out that private practice was worth a shot. Okay. And I started that in 2008 and discovered fairly quickly that I actually really enjoyed it. I enjoyed all the pieces of it, from creating business cards to building a website to, trying to meet people and figure out how to get referrals and do the best work. All that was and is terribly interesting to me. And so at some point, I got to the point where I was just so busy working with teenage boys and their families, no shortage of need there. That I was like, I can't really charge much more than I am, and I don't want to work more than I am. So I was like, how do I scale beyond this to continue supporting my family? And so I had a couple options that I was considering, and I had ruled out group practice ownership. I'll tell you that story if you want to hear it.
I would love it.
Yeah, fast forward 10 years later, I still have a group practice. So something happened there. And then along that journey, I also, out of basically necessity to solve my own problem, I started Productive Therapist, which is a virtual assistant company that focuses on helping therapists. And I grew that and have had so much fun with that it's actually surpassed my group practice. And to be honest with you, all of these sort of like milestones have been surprises to me, and obviously challenges and hard things along the way, but wonderful in terms of how my career has developed. And it was never like prescribed or decided what I was going to do. And in fact, I don't even know what my next phase will be. Something cool. I have some ideas. But yeah, that's a little bit about me. I am married for like 25 years. I have 2 daughters who are now 17 and 19, going away to college and in Northern California. I love to play the drums. I love all things Super Mario, for people who can see the background here. I'm just kind of like a fun, creative nerd.
Yeah. I love that. Like, if you went back to when you graduated, and if somebody had told you that you'd have a group practice for 10 years, you'd have productive therapists, you would have been probably surprised at very, putting it mildly.
I would have laughed. In my future self's face, I would have said, "What are you talking about? I have no such plans."
Yeah. So one of the questions that I always ask is, how would you describe yourself as a leader? When you started way back when, you probably didn't even think of being a leader at that point, never mind a private practice, hey?
Right. Yeah, so now I have a different answer, but back in the day, I would say a very reluctant leader, because I remember clearly sitting down with one of my mentors, clinical mentor, but I also respected his business experience. And I presented him with my problem that I mentioned earlier of wanting to like grow my income, but not being able to, or wanting to grow my caseload. And I had 2 options in my mind. One was to continue to write and build courses to help parents parent their teenagers, right? And I imagined myself like working on my computer in a coffee shop, anywhere I want to go, and just like living the introvert's dream, lifestyle. And that's what I was pursuing. And then there was this other idea of like starting a group practice. But I remember talking to Bob and he helped me decide not to do the group practice because I thought, my personality, who I am, what I enjoy, I don't want to be in charge of anyone. I don't want to be the boss. I don't want to be a leader, really. And so I ruled it out. And I won't tell the whole long story here, but I ruled it out until I realized that this other first plan wasn't really working as well as I wanted it to. Just to be honest, I wasn't making very much money selling courses to parents. Hard to kind of break into that. Lots of competition, I guess. And one day I got a call from a former coworker named Cindy, and we worked at this residential treatment center for teenagers for a long time. And she'd been there for 17 years. And she said, Uriah, I'm done. 17 years. I need to get out of here. Can I come work for you?
Oh, you weren't even saying,
Nope.
Hey, come. Okay.
Nope. I was not recruiting. I was not planning anything. Fortunately, I had set up a business entity as a corporation in California. So I was actually a little bit equipped to do this. But she was somebody, and still is today, somebody that I highly respected her clinical skills.
Yeah.
And I would consider her a friend still. When I got that call, I thought, it was one of those moments where you're like, I can't say no to that. That sounds like something I have to do. And so I just felt inspired to say yes. So that was, thank you to Cindy for starting me on this journey. She recruited my second person.
Oh, really? We didn't even do that.
Used to work. I know. So I was like, okay, I guess we're doing this. And there's three of us in one office, Well, I guess we need a bigger office and those kind of things. Anyway, long answer to your question. Now I would describe myself as, I would say, fun, kind, but very clear on my mission and the quality that I want to deliver, whatever that project or task or service is. So I think I'm actually pretty great to work for.
That's awesome. We recorded an episode for your podcast and talking about stepping into CEO. Do you remember when you stepped into that leadership role? Was it when Cindy came and approached you, or do you think it happened at a different point?
It was definitely later.
Okay.
It was definitely later. And I can't think of like a specific moment in time, but, I've always been really interested in learning about the things I'm interested in. And so along that journey, reading business books, listening to podcasts, following people that I could learn from, and hiring business coaches, right? Super helpful in that process. I think that my first business coach probably helped me the most in terms of stepping into that role because she had already done some of the things that I was trying to do. And so she was able to guide me sort of from the future. I had this idea that I think I've chatted with you about just today, actually, that I could just kind of step back and have these colleagues / friends that worked for me. For a long time, I was just in the building, walking around, doing things, talking to people. I didn't see myself as like the boss walking around. I saw myself as just like, hey, it's Jim. Hey, it's Michael, it's Shonda. When in reality, they all see you as your actual role, right? And so I thought, that smart people, licensed clinicians, they don't need any guidance. They don't need me to tell them what to do. And then at some point, I realized they actually want some guidance and some support and some feedback on. Everyone wants to know if they're doing a good job. So I kind of stepped into that gradually and probably reluctantly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the terms that I hear often is like accidental group practice owner. And you were an accidental group practice owner.
For sure.
Did productive therapist happen the same way? Just kind of like, oh, this fella, somebody asked you if they could be an assistant?
No, that was a little bit more intentional. I mean, I didn't intend to grow, a 7-figure business or whatever, but it happened a little bit differently. But for sure, like everything that I've created essentially has come down to like, well, here's a problem. How do we solve that? How do we build something, create something? I think that's what I love to do, to be honest with you, is I love to build things and imagine it and then make it happen. So no, it was really just like year 2 of me being head down, focused on the group practice. I focused on it for 2 years. I think you told me you did for a year and then you started something new. Yep. But I was doing all the things, all the marketing, networking, accounting, running all the billing, hiring, recruiting, training, supervising, cleaning the stains in the carpet. I was honestly pretty maxed out.
Yeah.
And actually, to be honest with you, what happened was I had a virtual assistant for about 5 years, who I started working with in 2012. And I didn't know it, but I basically got to like the best of the best from day one. Gina was fantastic. And so I worked with her for 5 years, and she was so efficient, so good, so trustworthy, just gave me an amazing experience. And she actually passed away from breast cancer, which was very sad.
Wow.
Too young, definitely too young. And so I had to figure out how to basically replace Gina. And so long story short, I ended up hiring a friend who was able to come into my office and work in my office. And then I quickly realized that my other friends and colleagues who were therapists kind of needed the same thing. They needed a Gina, and I had a great person who wanted to work more. And I was like, well, I literally talked to my friend who had a practice in San Francisco, and I was like, hey, do you need this, and this? And he was like, absolutely. So that's kind of how that started, basically as a side hustle to fix my own problem and then help my friends. And it worked.
Now you have lots of friends.
I do. Yes. I love it.
Awesome. Kind of taking a step back, because I want to come back to like helping group practice owners with that. But what do you see, or what is, how we want to ask this, what do you see as one of the biggest challenges for group practice owners? Maybe you experienced it as well, but as you are in with friends or helping people, what do you see as one of their biggest challenges?
As you know, there are so many challenges that we have to deal with every day. We have to try to prioritize what fire to put out first, what project to start, not start, etc. So I could give like at least 20 answers to that. But I'm going to go with one that I've been talking about for at least 8 or 9 years and I'm passionate about. And that is the challenge of waiting too long to delegate and get support.
Yes.
Whatever that looks like in any role, whether you're holding on to insurance billing for too long. You know, you and I were talking about disliking accounting and bookkeeping, like holding on to that too long, maybe not doing a good job. And importantly for me and for productive therapists, the intake role. A lot of group practice owners, they care a lot, of course, but they truly think that no one can do intake like them. No one can connect with people, convert callers to clients like they can, and all those things. And so we wait too long to let go of that. It's hard to find a person you can trust that's going to do as good or better than you. So I think that would be the biggest mistake, waiting too long and doing too much for too long, which ends up basically sacrificing your own mental health to help everybody else besides yourself.
Yeah. And I see people then starting to resent their business or resent the people around them because they get to go home and do whatever they're doing, and you're staying up till 11 answering emails or doing the billing, and that's not your strong suit as a leader.
And nobody's jumping out to say thank you.
Yes. Yeah.
Meanwhile, right? Yeah.
Yeah. As you look through your journey as a group practice owner, what was the thing that was the biggest support, or what helped you thrive as a group practice owner?
Yeah. So I really am a huge believer in business coaching, and I've done quite a bit of business coaching myself. I don't do it anymore because I'm focusing on other things. But my very first business coach was Susan. And then I actually ended up working with her business coach. And yeah, this is kind of a funny story, but I ended up, Susan, my business coach, her virtual assistant was Gina.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I ended up working with my business coach's virtual assistant and my business coach's coach. So, but both of them, Susan and Sandra, both made a huge difference in just helping me gain confidence and find direction, figure out like what I'm doing, strategy, and all of that. And actually, Sandra helped me immensely because she had experience working with therapists. So she was not a therapist herself. However, she did and still does own and operate a small virtual assistant company. So she helped me on both sides. So that was incredible. But yeah, one-on-one coaching for sure. When I talk to, like, as we're, helping folks through productive therapists with virtual intake coordinators, we're helping them with Simple Intake, our AI-powered CRM. And I talk to them and I say, who's your business coach? Or have you ever had a business coach? And when they say no, I go like, oh my goodness, you don't even know how much this is going to help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably part of like feeling like you have to do it all too. Hey, like if I can't, what does that say about me?
Right.
Or I got us this far. I can just keep plugging along, and then you burn out, and there is not a group practice for people to come and access and get help with.
What, overfunctioning? Me? Guilty of that? Too much self-reliance? What? No.
You're never guilty of that.
I can't relate. Can't relate.
You touched a little bit on like why people maybe don't reach out and get that support. As you're listening to people, I have two questions, because I hear a lot of people saying, well, yeah, nobody can do it as well as me. Or what if we lose clients as a result of them not getting it or hearing this one little thing? What helps build trust with a BA or an assistant? Have you seen things that actually help speed that along?
Well, of course, part of my answer is going to be work with a professional who's already trained, like productive therapist intake team, right? But outside of that, it is a process with anybody that you hire for any role. You have to try to create some sort of system, even if it's very simple, for that job to be done, right? Some sort of maybe SOPs, standard operating procedures, or even when you don't have that, something basic. And you have to try to find the best person you can, whether they're a contractor, an employee, a freelancer, etc. But if you can, as far as the intake role goes, if you can delegate that to someone who already has previous experience, like some kind of proven track record, that's really, really helpful. So it's like, if you look at their resume, if you're hiring like for a dedicated employee, whether part-time or full-time, and you see that they've done this exact job, that's helpful. In our experience, we've hired almost 100, I think, intake coordinators, and they don't need to have a psychology degree. They don't need to be aspiring to become a therapist necessarily. They need to have a high attention to detail, be proactive. They need to have a warm and a warm personality, and have enough skill to kind of guide a conversation towards booking an appointment, those kinds of things. But yeah, if you can work with a proven professional, that helps a lot. And then honestly, give them more training and oversight and support than you think you need to do. Because a lot of us, you know this, right? A lot of us will be like, okay, great, fantastic. I think they call it, I've heard it called delegation by abdication, which sounds kind of fancy, but it's basically like, okay, I don't want to do this thing. I got a person, I'm going to give them everything, and I'm not going to oversee them at all. And I don't know anything about this part of my business. Don't do that and walk away, right? Don't do that. I've seen that happen, and it usually backfires unless you're super lucky and you get like an amazing person and they just are directing. Yeah.
I call her my Melissa, which is basically Gina. She went on mat leave last year, and training her replacement, she set out, I think it was like a month for training. I'm like, no, I need her to be in place. And she's like, no, you need to take that slow, do the training properly. It just sets that up for success. And she was right again.
Don't take shortcuts on that. Yeah.
No. How do you think being a group practice owner and then starting productive therapist has made a difference in the business that you've built for supporting group practice owners? Like, would it have been the same if you had just been in private practice, do you think?
Well, I mean, what I try to do unintentionally first and now intentionally is create solutions for an ideal client that is ideally me.
Yes.
Because if you have a problem and you create something to solve that problem, whatever that something is, you know intimately at least some things about what those people need. So being a group practice owner for a number of years and then starting productive therapist, I was like, I just knew what I wanted. And I knew that a lot of my friends and people that I didn't know already kind of had this similar structure, similar needs. We're all a little bit different, right? But I think that helped a ton. I had no experience running a virtual company, so that was all brand new. But turns out I started productive therapist beginning of 2018. I was very fortunate by the time the pandemic hit to only have a fully virtual company. And so I already had at least a certain amount of skills in terms of running things that way. I was able to, pivot my group practice for a couple of years being virtual. So, yeah.
We didn't talk about this ahead of time. I am a huge proponent for having admin on site because I like having employees. I like that greeting time. So tell me the benefits of having a VA. How does that help a group practice owner? What are and maybe even contrasting the difference if you want to, but like why VAs?
That's a really good question. And it's definitely not a right or wrong question. It's personal preference. It's what works best for you. And there's lots of people who prefer to have their person come in the office or be what I call local remote. And for 7.5 years, my practice manager was local remote, lived about 35, 40 minutes away, would come in when needed, at least maybe once or twice a week. And that was fantastic. She did so much stuff in the office that, a virtual assistant just can't do, right? They can buy paper towels, but they can't bring them to the office, put them in the cabinet, et cetera, put ink in the printer and all those kinds of things. I do find that most things to run the back end of a group practice can be done virtually. The exceptions being like handling check payments or making deposits in the bank or, supply, like bringing supplies to the office or solving, bathroom toilet issues or whatever.
Yes.
But basically everything else, if you think about most people's biller, unless they're on site, is virtual. So honestly, it works great. But if you can have a combination of both or somebody who's local remote, I think that's a little more common now where you can hire somebody that really values working from home and having flexibility. I think that's great. Yeah.
How would it work? So most of my listeners are Canadian and you are based in the States. Is there anything unique to us if we were considering productive therapist?
The biggest thing, as you know, is the exchange rate. I actually just looked at it the other day. I think I told you my wife and I are coming to Canada for a vacation. And we also do get inquiries from folks in Canada, and it's just not great. The exchange rate is not great. So and people have asked me over the years, like, is there a productive therapist in Canada or, like the United Kingdom? And I thought, should we do that? But I mean, we're absolutely capable of working with anyone in Canada for any of our services. It does tend to cost more just because of the exchange rate. So I'm always on the lookout for companies that are based in Canada. And I know that, there's particular data privacy and security guidelines for folks in Canada. So you have to pay attention to that as well. And we have a lot of free resources so people can take advantage of productive therapist resources. We can even train your intake coordinator. All those things are on the table for sure. I just wish the exchange rate was better. I think it's like a US dollar to 1.38 right now.
Yeah, it's really bad right now for us. Yeah. You also are, because you are always into technology and being curious about it, you're moving or creating also AI version, or if that's the right term. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So last year, I was really stuck on figuring out how does productive therapists kind of move into the new AI world, or how do we pivot our services so that they can be useful to therapists going forward. And I was really stuck. I didn't honestly know what to do. I love technology. I've been interested in AI for years, been using it. And essentially, it clicked for me one day where I realized that people are building these AI receptionists to deliver conversational voice AI that could do a number of things. And when I realized that could fit beautifully with a human intake coordinator and streamline the intake process, I was like, okay, I have to do this. I have to figure this out. So we created a platform and customized it for therapists to run their intake process. So it's an AI-powered CRM or client relationship manager called Simple Intake. And the thing that I've been talking about the most is the AI receptionist because it's honestly very cool. So we can set it up to where it will answer your phone all hours of the day, never goes on mat leave, never gets sick. And it can do simple things, but powerful things like collect information, answer frequently asked questions about the practice, insurance, fees, availability, location, etc. And then most importantly, to me at least, it can schedule that person any time of day or night onto the calendar of the intake coordinator so that the personalized human-based, therapist matching can happen. So we've now been combining those things, the speed of AI and the care and connection and compassion of humans, to provide what we're calling a complete intake system. And then if folks already have an intake coordinator, fantastic. You can just use simple intake to manage your intake process. And then if somebody wants both, we also, of course, I provide that as well. It's been fun.
Yeah. Challenge your creativity and your technology.
Absolutely. I'm learning so much. And it's been a blast. But again, just trying to solve problems for myself and the therapist that I want to support. And so this is kind of the coolest thing I've done in a while.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm excited just kind of following along and seeing what you come up with. And yeah, you are always kind of on that creative edge, even in your group practice, like with the guitars and the music theme and stuff, and then exploring different technology. One question that came to mind, so if somebody, whether they're setting up a VA or somebody, an intake person in person, can you think of a really good interview question to help them in that process?
That's a great question. It's funny. I haven't done the interviewing or hiring for a long time. So I know my team has some really good questions. And we have sort of an assessment process that is really effective. And then it's also graded by AI. And then we grade it by 2 humans. So that's pretty cool. I'd have to ask them to find out what the best question is. But we do ask the question, this is the one that's coming to mind for some reason, about a time when they made a mistake and how they handled it in a previous job. So I think that one is, it's better than the what's your greatest weakness question.
Yes.
Right? So you can see if they have an understanding of, if they say they never made a mistake, obviously that's a problem. So you can see it kind of causes them to reflect, and you get a sense if they're accountable, if they're coachable, if they're a problem solver, if they tell you a story that involves them fixing their mistake, or whatever that story looks like. I find that that's a pretty good question. But to be honest with you, the things that we do in the interview process that are the most helpful are really like skills assessments. So it's not a question in an interview, but it's we put them through a process where they have to do several different things. One is like record an outgoing voicemail message for the practice. One is like look at a spreadsheet and solve a problem for scheduling. So we're seeing their actual results on doing tasks that are fairly quick and easy, but will show you the quality of their work, right? That's really helpful.
I think that is so important. That role is crucial. To have somebody good in your first contact with clients is so important. And then when we think of bringing admin on, usually it's to take something off our plate, because like we said before, like this, you're working in the business rather than on it. So it's supposed to help me. And then I hear so many people are hesitant to do assessments. What if they don't want to do it? Or I'm asking a lot. Why would they do that for free kind of thing? But yeah, it's been a game changer for us. We did, because I wanted them to do social media, create 3 social media posts. I want you to look and I want to see that you're using my colors and that mental health and stuff. And then, looking at the website, here's 3 clients, who would you put them with kind of thing, and create a spreadsheet, but something that really points to what you think is important for that role. And can they do it, rather than trying them out for 3 months and finding that they can't do that.
Right. Because to use that example, if you ask them, tell me about your previous experience creating social media posts for businesses, they'll tell you a lovely answer.
Yes.
And unless they have a portfolio and they show you their portfolio or do it for you, like you're saying, I'm not going to say you can't trust people, but they're just going to put their best foot forward. And it doesn't necessarily mean they're really good. It just means they're maybe good at presenting themselves as competent.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just realized what time it is. I want to say thank you I could go on talking to you for a while. We're going to include in the show notes there some of your services, but maybe just quickly recap what Productive Therapist offers.
Yeah.
I like that, even that one piece that you said, like you could help train someone, but what are all your services?
Yeah, so if you go to productivetherapist.com, you'll see kind of laid out the combination of the human intake coordinator service as well as the simple intake, the AI-powered CRM, and how they can work together. I've got a brand new workshop on that you'll see on the homepage. It's called How to Never Miss a Client, and it's only 15 minutes long, but it kind of it pulls back the curtain and shows you how we're thinking about combining these things to basically connect with every client and try to help more people. So check that out. And then the one that I referenced for training and intake coordinator. So if you go hire somebody that you find that's amazing, but you want to give them additional like high quality training, we've been using this for 6 years. It's called Therapy Intake Pro. And it can take someone from like day zero to like high converting intake coordinator in a reasonably short amount of time. So you can definitely check that out too.
Awesome. So productivetherapist.com. And our exchange rate would be the only hesitation for working with you.
Right. We do have a lot of free resources. My podcast is free. So, and I'm actually moving towards, to be honest with you, I'm moving towards making more of our stuff free. So like some of the courses that we've been charging money for a while, I'm just going to make them free. So come and get on my email list and you'll get some good stuff.
Yeah. And another plug for your podcast, really like you and I both align too on systems are crucial, and you talk a lot about systems and technology. So check out Uriah Guilford and Productive Therapist and get some support there through all of the different avenues that he's got. Thank you so much for joining me. It was great to have you, Uriah.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thanks for hanging out with me on Empowered to Lead, the therapist practice. I hope you're walking away with something that you can put into action, because leadership isn't about doing more, it's about leading with purpose. If you're ready for deeper support, I'd love to see you inside the Group Practice Connection, my monthly membership where Canadian therapists like you get coaching, community, and the tools to build a business that actually supports your life. You can check it out at grouppracticenetwork.ca. The link's in the show notes. And hey, don't forget to hit follow so you don't miss what's coming next. We're building something great here, and I'm so glad you're a part of it.